And we are back on The Absolute Truth with Emerald Robinson on Lindell TV. I'm filling in for Emerald. She'll be back tomorrow, ready to go. And we are going to talk a little bit about the economic situation right now in the United States and also in China, because whether we like it or not, the two are still linked, contrary to what you may think. And if we could just pull up clip number 6, the Hill has an interesting story, and it reads, a great pull quote here is, "This recession," and they're saying there's a recession coming in the United States, "when it lands will not be a repeat of 2008. The dangers are different and in some ways more permanent. In past crises, job losses came from factories shutting down or banks imploding. This time, layoffs are happening in sleek glass towers and corporate boardrooms. Artificial intelligence, AI, has given companies a new way to cut costs. No need for pink slips or awkward feelings. Just our software update and an entire department disappears. The human cost is visible but immense. People aren't just losing their jobs, they're losing their purpose. And this time, there's little guarantee those jobs will return." Clip number 7, please. And let's bring in Dan Collins. He's my friend and the host of Chaos Incorporated, a great YouTube podcast. He's also got more than 20 years of experience running high-end factories inside of China. And he's going to bring his great insight to talk to us not only about our economy, but also the Chinese economy. Dan, Trump says we're, quote, darn lucky that he's president right now because of the economic crisis and the affordability crisis. I was promised a golden age. It doesn't feel like a golden age yet. Is there a way we can turn this into a golden age, or is the Hill article I quoted correct and we're in this weird systemic downturn? What say you, sir?
Hey, Brandon, great to be here. I think, economically speaking, we've been in a recession going back into the Biden administration.
I agree.
Housing is 20, yeah, housing's 20% of the GDP. That's been semi-frozen. You and I are both down here in Florida. We see it firsthand. You know, we get the boom first, but we also get the bust. Florida
That's right.
housing is rolled over. Texas housing's rolled over. That's about to spread across the country. You're going to see foreclosures go big time. I think Q1, Q2 next year. You're seeing credit card default rates skyrocket. Credit card outstanding debt and credit cards is $1.25 trillion now. That's up 20% this year. The average U.S. household is $10,000 in credit card debt at usury rates of over 20%, and default rates have spiked up over 12%. So that's
Mhm.
literally $120 billion credit card companies will have to eat. Student loan default rates have spiked, right? Student people with student loans are now having to pay them back. That's at $1.8 trillion outstanding. That's doubled in a decade. And those default rates are now up 11, 12%. So I'm a real economy guy. As you mentioned, I got a factory background. So I look at the real economy. I don't look at the Fed powder puff stats that they come out with. So I look at things like freight delivery. Freight delivery this year, what's actually moving on the highways is down 18%. That's in goods deliveries, down 18%. So I think we have some green shoots in this kind of real dark environment. What are they? They're AI build out, their chip fabrication plants, 17 new ones under construction. Trump's tariffs are going to work for the car industry. But all of this takes time to recycle. You can't. We've been in a 40-year deindustrialization kind of government money printing Wall Street Ponzi scheme, and you don't just change that overnight into a real viable economy. It's going to take time. I'm afraid we do have more pain ahead before it gets brighter. Yeah.
So going in obviously to 2026, and this is clearly why the president is now trying to really talk about affordability. Do you think that he will be able to maybe have any economic wins for the Republican Party, or do you think this is going to doom the Republicans in the midterms coming up?
Yeah, unfortunately, politics is all economy, right? So, and
Right.
it's going to be difficult to. We're going to get some wins on paper, but I don't know if Americans are going to be feeling the golden age by the time we hit midterms. I just don't. I
I'm
don't see
certainly
it.
not.
I Yeah, I don't. I think we're not in that era part of the cycle. We may
Yeah.
see, 3 to 4 years from now, we may get some real bright, good information and good stuff happening. People may feel it, but I think we're in for we still have to go live through this AI bubble collapse. So, that's an absolute, incoming disaster. So.
Now, when we talk about the bubble collapse in AI, because obviously the great investor Michael Burry, the contrarian, he's basically trying to short the entire AI market. I was reading somewhere that Nvidia, I believe, accounts for like 8% of all GDP right now, or maybe it's the whole AI sector. But it's insane how much the U.S. economy right now is really hinging on one specific subsector of the overall tech sector. Is this sustainable? And if the bubble bursts, does that end all the flowery predictions about AI? And is that going to basically set us back in the AI development race? Or is this part of the necessary sort of evolution of technology and economy?
So So AI is real. It's an absolute real thing. It's coming. But just like the internet, it can be real and it can still collapse for a few years because you get over excited about it and it gets over
Yeah.
investment and that turns into malinvestment. You get companies like OpenAI with 13 billion in revenue. They're promising 1.3 trillion in capital investments. They don't have that. So they don't have that money. So many of these data centers are getting built out. They don't have power to connect to.
Yeah.
So the chip demand is real. Elon came out yesterday and told Samsung and TSMC, you got to start building chip fabs in 2 years, not 5 years, because I need 30 to 50 billion chips a year.
Yeah.
So this is what's going to go into the robotics, right? The humanoid robotics. I think what's going to save it could save the economy is you end up with humanoid robotics. You end up with AI infusion where they're able to absolutely produce everything in a facility and you're not going to even need as many workers. But so you're going to have job problems, but you're also going to have unlimited material goods, right?
So,
So it's going to be a balance between those two
So,
things.
so Drake, if you pull up clip number 8, that headline tear, we used it yesterday as well with Kevin Lynn. Basically, it reads, and I know, Dan, you have a college-age child as well, I believe, and it reads saying that recent STEM, not just liberal arts majors, but actual STEM majors from really reputable colleges are not able to find jobs in their field. And this is proving to be a systemic problem for native-born Americans. AI looks like it's going to complicate this. What do we do about all of these job dislocations? What's something you think we should be doing that we're not to help our young people not fall through that ladder?
But this is an absolute crisis. I do have two kids. Both are in engineering colleges. One's graduating with a expertise in electrical engineering with and expert on PCBs. She builds drones, and she tells
Wow.
me nobody's getting a job. Nobody's getting a job. So she's a junior. Yeah, there's like nothing. There's no, like people are enrolling, getting graduate degrees now because there's just nothing out there
Wow.
for them. And so these are American. We keep complaining, oh, we don't have the STEM people. We don't. No, we do. We overcrowd them. So one thing we can do is we have to stop the H-1B program. So
Yes.
when you have 2 million working engineers and you bring in 1 million engineers every year, what are we doing? And 80% of these are fake applications and fake degrees,
Yeah.
and there's all kinds of fraud and abuse with it. So you've got to start. With the tariffs, with the reindustrialization of the U.S., they'll start to pick up these people, but it is crisis level for young engineers coming out. That's what I'm hearing as well.
Okay, well, and that sort of sets us up to talk about clip number 9. You and I have been all over this story for the last several months, which is basically we thought we had a tentative deal last month, at the end of last month, between Trump and Xi over rare earth minerals. The deal originally was basically the Chinese were going to start letting us get access to rare earths again with some caveats and export controls. But we were going to have to every year now renegotiate for access to those. But now the South China Morning Post is reporting that actually the Chinese are saying we don't actually have a deal yet. What's going on with this? Because this is going to be the thing that kills the economy and our war machine more than anything else in the near term.
Yeah, and so we have a 1 year truce. The rare earth materials like permanent that are put in permanent magnets, that stuff's flowing, but it's only to commercial customers. So
Mm.
we had several automotive plants go down this year because they didn't have the rare earth permanent magnets.
Yeah.
That stuff's flowing again, but China never pulled back on the dual use rare earth. So
Mm.
there's a few rare earth out of the 17 total that they're still kind of controlling, and you have to have an export license. And so, as I mentioned, I think last time on the show, I didn't think the defense industry is going to get access to rare earths. I still don't think they will, but I think they'll have to have commercial companies, kind of order those for them, and China may turn a blind eye to it. But I think China's strategy here is smart. It's something we should have done with the chips. Instead of just block them, you use these and turn on the valve, turn off the valve. It'll take us 10 years to catch up, if we can even catch up. And they'll just turn that
Mm-hmm.
valve on and off to control. They can literally control our industrial supply chain with them.
So they're really taking advantage of this idea in American society that public and private sectors are not united. Whereas, of course, in China they talk about the military civil fusion (MCF). Drake, if you pull up clip number 11, the South China Morning Post also had a story about a U.S. congressional panel that, quote, a leading advisory panel on China policy urged the U.S. Congress on Tuesday to establish a consolidated economic statecraft entity to handle technological and other national security challenges posed by China's systemic and persistent evasion of American export controls and sanctions. And this pairs, by the way, with the other SCMP story, clip number 10, about how basically, despite some headwinds, the Chinese Made in 2025 agenda of dominating key manufacturing industries is working, and it's hurting the Americans. So are the moves that this congressional panel is recommending, is it the right move? Should we be trying to emulate China in this way where we're merging military civil relations, or is this going to blow up in our faces like so many other things have?
I don't have much faith in any government policy boards, to be honest. Um, yeah, we just don't have the people involved. The as I mentioned, with the chips, we cost our companies hundreds of billions of dollars in sales. China's the largest chip market. Instead of keep them addicted to our tech stack, we blocked it, and then they go and do a Manhattan Project to go around us to develop their own technology. And I think if you look across the technology spectrum, there's not much that they're behind on. A few semiconductor tools, and they're ahead of us on all kinds of stuff, like and not just technology, but the production capacity. There's 1,000 things we're completely dependent on them. Minimum 1,000 things. So they have the upper hand when you have the industrial base. They have this upper hand. So at this point with the technology, I think you want to keep China addicted to the tech stack. You want to make that. You want to make money off them, and you want to limit their domestic players from catching up. But you're not going to do that by just cutting them off cold turkey. That I think what that article refers to is a lot of re-exportation. A lot of GPUs and things went into Malaysia, then they go into China.
Yeah.
But if you saw Mark Andreessen's comment this week, which shocked people, 80% of the startups that he sees are now building AI off Chinese models. And that's because
Wow.
they've been able to build these models without all the chips. For cost of $4 million. So your AI tokens don't cost anything to build on the startups. So that is actually where we need to look at what is strategically in terms of technology and AI.
And one last question before we go, because China, as they always do, so it sounds like Andreessen and you are saying they're driving the cost of AI down. Is that part of the reason why the AI sector in America is starting to crater? Because they, just like with solar panels in China, they can't compete with the negative funds that or the negative revenue that Chinese companies, when they're doing AI research, can deal with?
That's part of it. So we're focusing on this brute force model with just more chips, more data centers, more chips, more data centers. $1 trillion. Give me $1 trillion. I need all your power. I need all your money. I need all your water for these data
Mhm.
centers. It's like a crazy thought process. Whereas China, when we restricted the chips, they started to think of workarounds, how to develop these AI models, and they're matching our models where we'll
Yeah.
spend $250 million training a model, and they'll spend four.
Yeah.
So that's the issue. That's you know
Well, and this is exactly how the United States actually beat the European competitors in the 19th and 20th century was we were able to outproduce and drive down costs, and that killed, for instance, the British Empire without us ever having to fire a shot. And it looks a lot like the Chinese are doing the exact same thing to us. Let us hope the Trump administration's reindustrialization plan, among others, actually gets into high gear. Dan Collins, thank you so much for joining us. He is the host of Chaos Incorporated, and he's a factory man. So he's got a lot of experience working in China, owning factories, running stuff in China.